Hi, welcome to Humber's 2015 election coverage. We hope you stay with us on this historic night as we witness the formation of Canada's 41st Parliament. A lot has happened since the 2011 election, where we saw Prime Minister Stephen Harper win a majority for the first time since 2000. Another first in that election was the NDP rode the orange wave, which made a huge splash across the country, making them for the first time the official opposition. Continuing with the first, the Liberals actually sank to become the third party in Canada for the first time in their history. Fast forward to 2015, and a lot has changed. Prime Minister Stephen Harper is now looking for his record-setting fourth mandate in the modern era as Prime Minister, and the Liberals have received a huge bounce back from now leader Justin Trudeau. Thomas Mulcair hopes to carry on for the late Jack Layton and ride that wave of orange support for the NDP into this election. We're going to be breaking down this and all the topics coming up tonight. For live coverage of our media blog and what's happening on the Twitter sphere, you can check out our social media desk. It's been a long campaign, 78 days, the longest in our federal history. And a lot has happened in this time, similar to a lot of our previous elections. There's been no shortage of controversy. Controversies such as the Mike Duffy trial, Bill C-51, the debate for a national pharmacare plan. Strategic voting became an issue for the first time in a long time, and even a record-setting amount of candidates that were dropped by their parties due to political gaffes on social media. We'll be diving into all this and more tonight. I'm your host, Tim Paul. We hope you stay with us. Joining me is my expert panel for each of the three parties that's going to be giving you the latest on their platforms and what they stand for, as well as the issues that matter to you Canadians the most, like the environment, healthcare, and the economy. Starting off with the Conservatives, we have Shannon O'Reilly. Welcome, Shannon.
Hi, Tim. Thank you for having me tonight.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. And so far, just quickly, how have the Conservatives been doing this campaign so far in your eyes?
Well, they've had a lot of ups and downs, but last night they polled at 30.5%. So we're hoping to see them do okay in the polls.
Sounds good. And for the Liberals, we have Irvin Solitario. Welcome, Irvin.
Hey, Tim. How are you today?
Well, it's been a long day. I'm sure you can
attest to that,
yeah.
Well, the Liberals started off with being the third place in the polls when this election was called, and right now they're at the first place in the polls. And if the polls hold up, they're looking at forming the next minority government. Of course, they are propelled by Liberal leader Justin Trudeau when he became the leader of the Liberal Party, Tim. Yeah,
it's going to be an interesting night. We'll be bringing you all the live up-to-date coverage. And for the New Democratic Party, we have Johanna Tucker. Welcome.
Hey, Tim. How's it going?
Well, and what can you tell us about the NDP so far, Johanna?
Well, we've got the NDP, who started out in first place. They were holding a 35% lead, and now they're down to 19% after polling today. So they've had a serious decline in their campaign since the start. Maybe this has to do with Tom Mulcair, or maybe it doesn't, but we don't know. But we'll see how it pans out tonight.
Yeah, certainly an interesting election, a lot to look forward to. As I said, we'll be coming back to you with a lot of in-depth analysis and breakdown. For right now, we're going to be throwing it over to our election studio. So they are going to tell you the latest on what's going on. See you soon.
Thank you. We must have an identical twin somewhere.
Or teleported to town.
Yep.
That was part of our coverage. We've been out all week actually gathering that. So thank you so much for doing that piece and being part of this this panel, Shannon. Just to recap, our discussion on security and surveillance certainly, I guess, resonates a lot with Canadians, Bill C-51 and C-24. So I'm glad you guys were able to contribute to that. Up next, we're going to be talking about refugees and a photo that actually shocked the whole world. I think you know what I'm talking about. And everyone at home, if you don't, we'll explain that later. But before we get to that, we're going to cut over to the results studio. So take it away, Kylan Rowe.
Party
huge,
coming from third place and possibly winning this election, Tim.
Absolutely, and also the youngest prime minister in history.
And
so yeah, that's the information that we have right now. So we're going to continue on with our topic. I think for this election, it's safe to say, based on what you pointed out, Justin Trudeau's been smoking, and that takes us right into our next topic, which is the topic of marijuana. And so that's a little segue for you. It didn't come to the forefront a lot this election, but nevertheless, it was still an issue that resonated with Canadians, something that a lot of platforms were geared around. Why don't we start with the Conservatives, Shannon? They actually took, I guess, a very harsh stance on the subject. What did the Conservatives do with the legalization of marijuana in this campaign?
So the Conservatives...
For First Nations identity. Now, we're going to go back to Tim.
Thank you for those updates, and thanks for staying on top of the social media desk. And so, yeah, as we said before we went away, we're going to talk about the photo that rocked the world. For those of you that don't know, The Alan Kurdi photo. It was taken of a 3-year-old boy who was found washed ashore after his boat capsized when him and his family were fleeing Syria. And it was due to the refugee crisis that's been going on there, and that actually brought that issue of immigration to the forefront of this election. So it's a very, well, I guess something that really brought that to a lot of Canadians' minds. So real quickly, we're going to get, I guess, the political parties' view of that incident and what their parties chose to do about immigration in wake of that photo. It should also be noted that after he was found washed upon shore, his family had actually been trying to get into Canada. So we're going to start with you, Shannon, and what can you tell us about the Conservatives and how they've handled this photo and their policies? They're being proactive, and I think the Conservatives touched on that, but just in a different way, whereas going to fight the crisis over there so you don't have to accept as many incoming refugees and deal with these issues. One thing that I guess comes to mind, this issue, as we mentioned earlier, came to the forefront of a lot of Canadians when that photo came out. There's a lot of shock, a lot of protests, a lot of outrage. But unfortunately, throughout this campaign, as the campaign has gone on, we've seen less and less of this of refugee status as being discussed by the policies. And there's actually polls that suggest that it's not a hot button issue with voters. Do you see that in your campaigns? We'll start with you, Irvin, on whether this is still a hot button issue.
Well, certainly when the photo of Alan Kurdi came out, a lot of focus has been put in the Liberal Party and how they responded to that, certainly. Chris Alexander appearing in CBC with his comments, blaming the media, fueled a lot of support for the Liberal Party. And that gave a momentum to both the New Democratic Party and the Liberal Party to talk about refugees, because as you know, the report before the election, before today, came out saying that the Conservative the Conservative government physically tried to stop the intake of refugees in Canada, and of course that hurt the Conservative Party, but it also helped both the Liberal Party and the New Democratic Party of Canada. So the Liberal Party, as a force, is expanding the refugee intake, and that garnered a lot of support with those minorities and those looking to help out with the Syrian refugee crisis. So,
and from the Conservative perspective, I know they're not letting in as many refugees, but what are they doing to help refugees? I think you touched on it earlier.
So the Conservatives decided to scrap the UN applications for refugees, and instead of putting through that application, which is often lengthy and takes a lot of time.
I think it's about 18 months
exactly.
for a refugee to come to Canada.
They're just going to go ahead and let the Syrian refugees in, and this is coming at a cost of $25 million to the government. But they feel like it's worth it to get the refugees here in a timely manner.
And from the New Democrats' perspective, why do you think this issue hasn't stuck with voters?
You know, I think, as Irvin kind of touched on earlier, it's been an issue that's been around for a couple months now. People know about it. The hype of it has kind of gone down a little bit. But also, I think people are concerned about what's going on in their...
Thank you for that, and for the live update, Anas. Thanks for keeping us informed on that desk. And so yeah, we're going to get into our next topic like we talked before the break. Student debt is actually going to be something we can all relate to as students.
Yeah, definitely.
And certainly it hasn't been as big an issue in a lot of federal elections because young people don't vote as much as the base. But I think definitely us as students and a lot of people nowadays are becoming more aware. In order to change student debt and to do something about it, we need to vote. So we're going to give you our opinions on that first. We'll start with Irvin and the Liberals. What have they proposed for student debt in this campaign so far?
Well, Tim, they're proposing...
Yeah, and in case for anyone who's watching at home, if you haven't figured out yet, we are still students. I know we act very professional, but we are still students. And so this is something that we can all, I guess, chime in about, and I guess what you think. We'll start with you, Johanna. What would you like to see from the NDP, I guess, as a student, and what they could do?
Or from the Liberal, I guess.
Now that we...
Who's going in? Definitely the environment was one of the strengths of the NDP, and it looks like the Liberals were successful in wrangling that issue in their favor. Do we see any, I guess, policies that are going to affect like Canadians every day?
Well, I think the cap and trade, but not as loud as we hope they would.
And so yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens next for Canada. So we want to just say thank you to all the viewers out there who have joined us to witness this moment in history and what it means for our country going forward. I'd like to thank my expert panel who's been great all night.
Thank you.
It's
been
fun. It's been a long night. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for putting up with me. Appreciate it. And so yeah, for more coverage, please check out skedline.com because our coverage is not ending here. We're going to be live blogging all the way up until Trudeau speaks, and our correspondents in Montreal are actually going to bring you that speech right here. So for any political junkies or people who are interested, stay tuned. We're not going away. That's going to be it for us here. So again, we'd just like to say thank you very much for your support, and we hope that you learned something from this debate.
Hopefully,
from some of
everyone.
us.
That's the aim. That's
That's the aim.
And we'll see you next time around. So for all of us here at Skedline, my name's Tim Paul. Thanks to the production team and the crew out in Montreal. That's all for now. You can tune into Skedline.com if you want to see our weekly cast. Until next time.